Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we turn complex research into surprising and hopefully actionable insight.
Hopefully.
Today, we're really peeling back the layers on, well, consciousness itself. We are going on a mission to understand the work of the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
And he is the undisputed architect of the concept of flow.
Exactly. And our guiding question is this: how does our moment-to-moment management of attention, that little resource, determine our happiness, our sense of purpose, and how does it fuel our growth as human beings?
It's such a great place to start because the premise is, well, it's beautifully simple, almost radical.
Right.
Csikszentmihalyi basically said that your quality of life is nothing more than the sum total of your conscious experiences. That's it.
And the gatekeeper to those experiences is attention.
Attention. The research treats it as a strictly finite, measurable resource. They even have a term for it, psychic energy.
I love that term, psychic energy. It just makes so much sense. It suggests we only have so much bandwidth, to process things and act at any given time.
Precisely. And the choices you make, and there are choices about where you invest that limited energy.
Whether it's on work or a conversation or just worrying about something.
Exactly. Those choices determine the content of your consciousness. And over time, they literally build the architecture of the person you become.
So if you focus that energy on challenging things, meaningful tasks,
You become a more complex, more capable person. It's a direct result.
okay, but that brings us to a huge, huge problem for the researchers, right? If you want to measure the quality of life from moment to moment, how do you even capture something so internal?
So fleeting. Yeah.
Like a person's feelings, their concentration, their motivation, in the actual chaos of daily life. I mean, asking someone, how happy were you last Tuesday? That's just useless.
It's worse than useless. It is completely misleading. Traditional methods like questionnaires or diaries, they are just so prone to the flaws of memory.
We rewrite our own history.
We do. We filter our past through, cultural expectations, what we think we should have felt. And there's this thing called the peak end rule, where we really only remember the most intense moment in the very end.
And you forget all the boring stuff in between.
All the neutral time, the waiting, the zoning out. So to get past that, back in the 1970s, they had to literally invent a way to capture experience as it was happening.
Okay, let's get into this. This is the methodological breakthrough, the experience sampling method, or ESM. This must have felt like science fiction at the time.
Oh, it was absolutely pioneering. It relied on what was then cutting-edge tech.
Which was?
Electronic pagers. Beepers, like the ones doctors used to carry. So participants would carry a beeper and a little booklet, a questionnaire, called the Experience Sampling Form.
And the key was that they were signaled randomly, right? Not on a schedule.
That's the crucial part, randomly. Maybe 7 or 8 times a day for a whole week.
So the beeper goes off, and no matter what you're doing, in the meeting, washing dishes, whatever, you have to stop and report on your immediate state.
Immediately. You'd write down your location, your activity, who you were with, what was on your mind, and then you'd fill out something like 40 numerical scales.
40? Wow.
Yeah, measuring everything. Your current feelings, like happy versus sad, your arousal level, alert versus drowsy, and really importantly, the perceived relationship between your skills and the challenge at hand.
The data must have been incredible. I mean, you're talking about 50 snapshots of a person's inner life per week. Thousands of data points.
It's the difference between a single photograph of a person and a high-def video of their entire week. And let them see exactly when and why these optimal experiences were happening.
Okay, so with that tool in hand, let's dive into the core reason for it all.
Flow.
When you synthesize all those reports from rock climbers, surgeons, chess masters, what is that consistent subjective state people are in when they're just completely on fire?
The reports were so consistent. That's the amazing part. First and foremost, people report this complete, effortless involvement of mind and body. It's concentration so deep they feel, and this is a quote, oblivious to their surroundings.
Yeah, the classic one is the composer saying, the house could burn down, but they would be unaware. That level of focus is just, it's incredible.
It really is. And other key elements kept coming up. Clear goals, immediate feedback, those things stabilize your attention. Then there's this profound loss of self-consciousness. You stop worrying about what other people think.
And time gets weird.
Time gets very weird. The chess player feels like time passes 100 times faster. The artist looks up and 6 hours have just vanished.
And the thing that makes it addictive, I guess, is that the activity feels autotelic.
Yes, from the Greek. It means the goal is within itself. You're not doing it for money or fame. The reward is the doing. The activity is the reward.
Okay, that's the feeling. But scientifically, flow is defined as a dynamic equilibrium, a balancing act.
A psychological tightrope walk is a great way to put it.
So what has to be in balance for this to happen?
It's the match between two perceptions. First, the challenges you see in front of you, the opportunities for action. And second, the skills you feel you have to meet them.
So challenges and skills.
Right. And flow only happens in that sweet spot where they match. But, and this is critical, both the challenge and the skill have to be above your personal average level. You can't be in flow doing something trivial.
Which brings us to that famous 8-channel model of experience. It shows what happens when you fall off the tightrope.
Exactly. So if the challenge is really high but your skill is low,
Yeah.
you're in anxiety. The demands just overwhelm you.
I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah. And the reverse, if your skills are super high but the challenge is low, you get boredom.
Right. And what if both are low? Low challenge, low skill.
That's the absolute lowest point of psychic functioning, apathy. Your energy has nowhere to go, nothing matters. It's a state that just drains you.
But the crucial insight here is that this balance, this flow state, it's not stable. It can't be.
It's inherently unstable, and that instability is the engine of human growth. Think about it. When you're in flow, your skills naturally improve.
Of course.
And once your skills get better than the challenge, the activity, it becomes boring again.
So you're pushed psychologically to find a slightly harder challenge to get back into that state.
You're compelled to. Boredom isn't just unpleasant, it's the biological trigger telling you to level up.
So it's an engine for evolution.
It's an engine for personal evolution, yeah. The research calls this process complexification. You're becoming a more complex organism. A musician differentiates a new technique, like a difficult scale, and then integrates it into their playing. That cycle is how you build a more capable self.
That makes so much sense. Okay, let's take this out of the world of peak performance and into just Monday morning. How does this model play out in our daily lives according to all that ESM data?
Well, first place to look is motivation, the classic split between intrinsic and extrinsic.
Right. Extrinsic is for an external reward money, status. Intrinsic is because the experience itself is rewarding.
And the data here it's really counterintuitive, especially when it comes to work.
Yeah, tell us about that work data. I found it pretty shocking that things we have to do can sometimes feel just as good as things we choose to do.
They can. So for obligatory activities, your job, driving, chores, they are very rarely intrinsically motivating from the start. For professional work, it's only about 3.4% of the time.
So we're doing it for the paycheck.
We're doing it for external reasons, yes.
Yeah.
But these exact same activities are described as being intrinsically rewarding in the moment almost 3 times as often, close to 10% of the time.
So even if you start the job for extrinsic reasons, the act of doing it, solving a problem, mastering a task, can actually put you into a flow state.
It absolutely can. It shows the power of just directing your attention. Now compare that to leisure activities, the stuff we choose to do.
Okay.
Leisure is, intrinsically motivating way more often than work, about 4 times as often. But here is the paradox. Even when people freely choose their leisure, it is still experienced as lacking any intrinsic reward almost 13% of the time.
Wow. So just having the freedom to choose, like to watch a movie or scroll social media, is no guarantee of enjoyment. And sometimes the mandatory thing is better for you.
It flips conventional wisdom on its head, doesn't it? It shows that your external circumstances, like freedom or money, they don't determine happiness, your attention does. And we see this so clearly in the studies on teenagers.
Ah, the happy versus less happy student findings. Yeah, tell us about that.
So researchers compared these 2 groups. And the big surprise was that the happy students weren't happy because they had more free time or different friends or even because they were wealthier.
It wasn't their environment.
No, they were just happier in every single situation. The proportions of their activities, who they were with, it was all the same as the less happy group.
So if the external reality was the same, what was different on the inside?
It all came down to perception. The happy students were much more likely to feel their choices were voluntary. And crucially, they perceived their tasks, even homework, as being appropriately challenging for their skills.
So they were just better at finding that flow channel, even in things other kids saw as a drag.
Exactly. Happiness isn't about what you do, it's about the internal alignment you bring to it.
That's a massive takeaway. Okay, so if happiness is about controlling attention, let's look at the flip side. What happens when attention is totally uncontrolled? Let's talk about the dark inverse of flow, psychic entropy.
Psychic entropy is just a state of disorganized attention. It's when you can't order the information coming at you, so it's impossible to act effectively.
And in its most severe form, this is.
It's schizophrenia, a complete breakdown in the ability to control your own thoughts. But in its milder forms, it's just anxiety, worry, that feeling of inner chaos.
Which leads us right to the research on escapism, specifically TV viewing, which so many of us use to self-medicate against that feeling.
The TV escape research is fascinating. They use the ESM data to look at people's moods before and during a heavy night of TV versus a light night.
What did they find?
They found that subjects reported significantly lower moods, more negative feelings, more psychic entropy in the afternoon before a heavy night of television.
So the bad mood comes first. The bad mood predicts the escape. People are watching TV not because they're happy, but because they're trying to stop feeling unhappy.
That's the mechanism. They're using it for relief. Now, here's the interesting part. During the actual TV viewing, people report, low concentration and a mildly negative mood. It's not a positive experience.
Right.
But when they looked at other at-home activities on those heavy viewing nights, the mood was identical to light viewing nights, which suggests the TV did its job. It might have successfully relieved that really negative mood they were feeling earlier. It's an emotional pressure valve.
But if they feel kind of blah during TV, and we know flow activities make you feel great, why do people choose the path of passive relief? Why not do something that makes you actually happy?
Because flow requires an investment of psychic energy up front, and passive stimulation is the path of least resistance. It takes zero effort to turn on the TV. Relief is immediate. Growth is hard.
And that brings us to the type of person who consistently chooses growth. Let's talk about the autotelic personality.
The person who finds flow almost everywhere.
And I'm guessing this isn't just your typical high achiever, right?
Right.
Young, educated, high status.
Actually, no. The data doesn't really support that. One study found autotelic people were often older, more family-oriented. It's not about external metrics. It's an inner quality, a MET skill.
A MET skill.
Yeah, a skill about skills. It's the ability to find competence and discover rewards in mundane events that other people just see as neutral or annoying.
So what does that look like in practice? How do they turn, say, a traffic jam into an optimal experience?
Well, instead of just descending into road rage, which is pure psychic entropy, the autotelic person might impose their own order on the situation. They might turn it into a mental game, practice a memory drill, or just actively observe their surroundings with full focus. They turn passive waiting into active engagement.
They transform an external demand into an internal challenge.
You got it. And that connects so powerfully to how we build a self. If your self is just the sum of the goals you pursue.
Then an authentic self is one built on goals that lead to flow.
Yes. An authentic self is built on goals chosen because they optimize your experience, because they lead to genuine enjoyment. If you consistently chase goals only for external reasons, money, status, likes, and those things don't actually make you feel good,
then the self you build feels hollow, inauthentic.
It's a self driven by external controls, not internal investment. And that's where you see chronic dissatisfaction, even in people who look incredibly successful on the outside.
Which is why this next distinction is maybe the most important one of all. Pleasure versus enjoyment. We mix them up all the time.
We do, and they are completely different, biologically and psychologically. Pleasure is homeostatic. It satisfies a need. Hunger, thirst, comfort, rest.
It brings you back to zero.
Exactly. It's conservative. It's about contentment and survival. But enjoyment?
Enjoyment is different.
Totally different. Enjoyment only happens when you use your skills to meet a challenge. It's about growth. It's evolutionary. It moves you beyond your current state.
Pleasure restores your psychic energy, but enjoyment actually expands your consciousness.
Right. And the great paradox is that enjoyment, not pleasure, is what makes life feel rewarding and meaningful. Yet, when we're given the choice between a challenging book and passive TV, most of us,
We choose the TV. We choose the simple pleasure.
we choose the path of least resistance. And that choice has huge implications for society, not just for individuals.
You mean if a whole society relies on extrinsic motivation, on passive stimulation?
Yeah.
You're talking about the circuses of the late Roman Empire.
Or our modern equivalent, right? Endless spectacle, validation streams. These things drain our collective psychic energy without making us more capable or better adapted for the future.
And the danger is that if society doesn't provide healthy ways for people to find flow in productive activities,
People will still seek it. They'll just find it in destructive ways: addiction, crime, mindless consumption. So the goal for a healthy society has to be making flow available within constructive pro-social pursuits.
So to wrap up our deep dive here,
Mhm.
the quality of your life is not random. It's a direct result of how you manage your limited attention. And seeking out challenges that stretch your skills, that is the path to real enjoyment and growth.
And that leads to a final, pretty provocative thought, I think. This ability to enjoy challenges, to master them, this metaskill of flow, it is not just a nice to have, it is essential to cultural and personal evolution.
It's game-changing.
It's the engine. Flow drives the basic human need to go beyond what we are, to increase complexity. And now that we are conscious of that evolutionary process, we're responsible for it.
We have to decide its purpose and direction.
Exactly. And you execute that responsibility every day by where you choose to focus your finite attention. When you choose goals that encourage complexity, mastering a skill at work, teaching a child, developing your own potential, you become the embodiment of evolution advancing into the future. That is the ultimate, optimal way to invest your psychic energy.
So if we accept that we are all, in a way, instruments of growth and complexity, the question we leave you with is this: how might you restructure the investment of your daily attention this week to consciously choose effortful enjoyment over simple, passive pleasure? That's the vital question. Until the next deep dive.